Welcome to Look, Look and Look Again, where we love things retro and programmes all culty and hip. Let me take this opportunity to guide you into the realms of TV's yesteryear, where it was daring, innovative and progressive, and no snowflake or member of the white middle-class liberal elite interfered in broadcasting in their pious way for the cause of political correctness. Oh, these times. I hope to cover film and television and share my passion, some knowledge and some facts with you, so it inspires you to look, look and look again. Without further ado, on today's show, it's...
Check white dove, snowback snake, time is fast. From the edge of mystery, where running is no race. Ageless night, careless day, fate reaches out high to touch the edge of destiny. A story with no end. Tarot cards, tarot phenomenon.
In the late 1960s to the early 1970s, many changes were occurring in the UK's TV land, especially now colour had become more accessible through the medium of television. Fortunately, science fiction and fantasy shows were the first to make breakthroughs and championed the arrival of colour. The vitally important and shamefully forgotten BBC Two anthology series Out of the Unknown was already treating viewers to a Technicolor future when the third and fourth series were broadcast in the new colour format between 1969 to 1971. Drama series also utilised this medium, with the BBC's excellent Take 3 Girls and even Coronation Street regenerated from monochrome into colour, and that was just in the ad break. Steed and Mrs. Peel switched to, and musters, turquoises and puce flooded the cathode rays into some of the households across the United Kingdom. The United States of America had used colour format for ages, although arguably the NTSC format they used was nowhere near as pokey as the power system adopted by the UK. NTSC, it used to be said, because of the poor quality, used to be an acronym for Never the Same Colour. So what happened to these colour firsts? The BBC wiped them, of course. Out of 49 episodes of Out of the Unknown that were made, only 20 complete episodes exist in the archives, with only one complete colour example, The Last Lonely Man, and a 30-minute clip of another of the colour stories, The Little Black Bag. This is a very poor representation of what must have been a whole new wonder, a bit like comparing standard definition to high definition we have now, and of course it lightened people's lives up to see something in colour rather than the monochrome that they'd been used to since television had started properly, shall we say, in the late 40s. Out of the Unknown, going back to that I hope to cover on another show. Such a shame that a pioneering anthology series such as Out of the Unknown that featured teleplay adaptations by the talents of Isaac Asimov and Nigel Kneale, to name but a few, are now gone forever and highly likely will never be seen again. Doctor Who at that time also went halcyon and psychedelically hungover from the kaleidoscopic cyclorama of the late 1960s, and the stories, due to a change in script writers and editors, Doctor Who from 1970 made the series more grown up. Arguably, this produced my own personal favourite season, which is season 7, and arguably one of my top stories, which was called Inferno, an amazing, amazing tale of alternate universes where goodies become baddies, etc., etc. To be honest, I enjoy all the stories from this era. On ITV, ITC series such as The Champions, Strange Report and Department S combined a mix of luridness in plot as well as the crimpling fashions and now dated attitudes which would cause the PC brigade in universities to have a blue vinegar fit. Don't forget, this was an age of a slap on the arse and shut up and cook generation, which the PC arseholes just don't get and use as an excuse to attack another generation, which, if they realise, were responsible for their birth in the first place. But enough soapboxy stuff. There seemed to be a generation of shows during this time which appealed to children and adults alike, and shows such as this I refer to as kidult. Such a winning formula graced children's television shows where, unlike with the snowflake generation's fear-mongering, such shows for children did not patronise and took a dare at producing generally surreal and at times very scary themes as TV land grew up, which carried on through much of the 1970s and contributed towards what is known as the United Kingdom's golden age of television. Unlike now, the emphasis was on entertainment, not fragility, and TV was much more poke than pamper back then. This also seemed the winning format echoed in Ace of Wands. Despite it being primarily aimed at children due to its slot in the schedules, this wonderful show had audiences enthralled, children and students every week. It began on ITV, where the scheduling for children's tea time drama produced a gap. As a stroke of sheer genius, Mr. Trevor Preston and Ms. Pamela Lonsdale created a new children's fantasy series, Ace of Wands. Preston had only ever written for adult drama, and this combined with Lonsdale's child-orientated skills at dramatics proved a winning combination. It produced a pioneering series blessed with the kidult element that could be viewed and ultimately gripped all ages. Due to its episodic cliffhanger format, wooing audiences back week after week, and its overall slickness, Ace of Wands captured the hearts and minds of a new Aquarian dawn. The acting ability is of the highest calibre and plays just as important part of the framework of the story as the effects and the scary bits, something practically unheard of for a children's programme in this day and age. When the series had been put together and perfectly casted, Ace of Wands was pitched by Thames Television in their press release, which I'm going to read here, as it sums up a lot, and what's the point of me saying what has already been said so well? Ace of Wands was described as follows. Ace of Wands, Thames Television continue their special interest in children's programming such as Sexton, Blake and Tyrant King with this unusual new 13-half-hour episode series launched on the network on the 29th of July 1970. Tarot, the Ace of Wands, is a 20th century Robin Hood with a pinch of Merlin and a dash of Houdini. By profession he is a renowned illusionist, by vocation a righter of wrongs. To help solve the mysteries, Tarot uses all his magic skills, which range from sleight of hand and escapology to hypnosis and telepathy. Sometimes his methods might be surprising, but his confrontations with the formidable kings and queens of crime always end with the triumph of good over evil. Tarot has 3 associates, Lully, Sam and Mr. Sweet. All have their own particular place in his organisation and their own specialised functions. Lully is young, beautiful and intelligent. She studied philosophy at Oxford for a while, then got bored and left. She is a compulsive doer. She met Tarot by accident when she backed her beach buggy into his E-Type Jaguar, and they subsequently discovered that they had an advanced telepathic communication. Since then, Lully has worked as Tarot's assistant on stage on and off, and has proved invaluable. Sam is Tarot's right-hand man. He's done everything, been everywhere, even to prison, and has incredible connections. There are a lot of people who owe Sam favours, and he has no hesitation in using his contacts. He is impulsive, cheerful, tough, and totally dedicated to Tarot. Mr. Sweet is an antiquarian bookseller with an international reputation as a lepidopterist and entomologist. He has a major role to play for Tarot as front man and go-between. Adventures often start with someone in trouble approaching Mr. Sweet in the hope that he will enlist the unique services of Tarot on their behalf. Mr. Sweet is lovable, amusing, eccentric, but quite capable of amazing and unorthodox action if the situation demands it. There is another member of the set, Tarot's pet owl Ozymandias. Ozzy, as he is called, is a Malayan fishing owl. Just over 1 foot high, has buttercup yellow eyes and makes a whistling sound when he is excited. He is devoted to Tarot, Lully and Mr. Sweet, but has reservations about Sam, who calls him a cross-eyed cuckoo. Such stories are centred around Tarot and his friends versing their adversaries, the royalty of the underworld. The permanent cast was Tarot, played by Michael Mackenzie, Lully, Judy Lowe, Sam, Tony Selby, Mr. Sweet, Donald Lane Smith, and Ozymandias, Fred Owl. The creator of the show was Trevor Preston, and the producer Pamela Lonsdale. The first episode, titled 1 and 1 and 1 are 4, Taro is asked to find a famous professor's invention which was stolen from his laboratory and which in the wrong hands could be used as a devastating weapon. Taro's adversary is a beautiful but evil Madam Midnight, played by Hildegard Neal, who is determined to get the invention and outwit Taro. This was written by Mr. Clive Wheels, copyright to him, etc., etc., blah, blah, blah. So the series actually burst onto television screens in the summer of July 1970 in a 5:15 slot on the UK's ITV network. The first script was expertly handled by P.J. Hammond. Would you expect anything less from the maestro in charge of Sapphire and Steel, and brought a Thames TV interpretation of James Bond to a bewildered, interested and thrillingly receptive audience on a budget, but from what can be seen, highly innovative. Man about town magician, flared trousers and velvet clad, our main man was called Taro, played magnificently by Michael Mackenzie, who was the epitome of 1970s macho, flamboyant, suave and generally a bit of a dish. The whole hip affair was set against the backdrop of a fashionable street market, and in the first 2 seasons we have a lustrous trio of Taro, master magician extraordinaire, his scrumptious assistant Lully, played by Judy Lowe, and their muscle Sam, played by Tony Selby. Yes, Tony Selby, he played Savalon Glitz in the 6th and the 7th Doctor's era. And they also joined forces with a wise Mr. Sweet, an antiquarian bookseller, meaning a quirky quartet straight out of a comic book, who would lend a hand to some of the most bizarre investigation, watched over, of course, by Ozymandias, Taro's pet owl. Each week, this quirky quartet took on such adversaries as Madam Midnight, Teddy Dolk, Dulbiac and Mr. Stabs, to name but a few, as they fought against the arcane, the ethereal and dangerous, against a kaleidoscopic LSD-infused early 1970s backdrop. After pitting mind, body and soul against such diabolical masterminds, Sam and Lully exited and went on to bigger and better things at the end of Season 2. When Season 3 was launched, brother and sister Mickey and Chaz joined Taro in his adventures. Not much changed as Taro re-established his strong psychic link with Mickey, just as he had with Lully, and Chaz provided the comical element and muscle when needed, just like Sam. Regrettably, it is difficult to assess and compare, as Seasons 1 and 2 were sadly junked. Not only did the BBC criminally wipe shows, but it seems ITV managed the same sort of crime. And so if you buy the box set available from Network DVD, you will hear about the reason why the show was junked, and it goes something like this. During Series 3, Thames Television, people in the archives or whoever, that I can't remember, went along and knocked on the production crew's office, and the production crew were out filming Season 3, and the reason why they approached them was to see if they wanted to retain Seasons 1 and 2 of Ace of Wands. But as they were not there and they were filming, and nobody was available to give them an answer to that question, they consequently decided and took it upon themselves that there was no reason to keep Seasons 1 and 2, and consequently the lot were wiped completely, which is a great shame. Looking at some of the photos that exist, it seems we are missing out on a treat which appears to be just as good as the missing Who episodes. With other series like Ace of Wands and Out of the Unknown, this is as doubly hard at procuring missing episodes and clips, as although they were enjoyed and revered in high esteem at the time, it didn't last long enough nor receive the institution appellation of other shows such as Doctor Who, which, if we are lucky, turn up in the hands of private collectors. I'm not really sure if any of these were. I know that Out of the Unknown was, but Ace of Wands itself, I don't know if film prints existed and were exported abroad. I've looked online and I've looked at various sort of resources, but to no avail. So if anybody else can help there, then please leave a comment if you know a little bit of knowledge about this series and if it was exported at the time. Maybe something might surface. I'm not sure and cannot find resources if this show, as I said, was exported to English-speaking countries, and know of only one missing story, which is called Nightmare Gas, cropping up on dear YouTube. And alas, this sounds as though it was recorded via a microphone placed in a teapot in a blizzard. Unfortunately, I haven't got the equipment here nor the time to take hold of that and redo it and remix it and make it sound more palatable for the ears. It's a great shame. Maybe somebody else out there could do that. Fortunately though, all of season 3 of Ace of Wands exists and gives us an inkling of what may shaped the seasons before it. The drama, this is drama at its absolute nadir, and once again the cast is spot on with the performances of a very high caliber for a children's show. In a memo from the Ace of Wands team from seasons 1 and 2, what I did find rather amusing, this is part of the PDF collection that is on the network DVD release of the 3rd season. It was for writers, and they were asked to produce a children's show if it could be screened at 5 p.m. or 9 p.m. They wanted it to focus on appealing to making it more adult, despite the fact that it was for children's audiences, which hence why some of the stories for Ace of Wands are out there, completely out there and quite left field, but thoroughly enjoyable. I mean, one of the examples can be found in a story from season 3 called Peacock Pie. The direction itself is moody, oppressive, and sometimes downright delirious, really realising P.J. Hammond's top-class script. Brian Wilde, yes folks, Foggy in The Last of the Summer Wine, portrays the sinister but melancholy Mr. Peacock and gives a truly classic performance, mixing true loneliness, melancholic mischief, and the sardonic, making Peacock Pie one of Ace of Wands' most poignant adventures. Such skilled direction also heightens tense moments, using obscure angles and the use of a fisheye lens, a 70s staple, to achieve such ends, which makes it very experimental and exceptional. The climax to episode 1 is absolutely spot on, and the climax to episode 3 handled emotionally well. When Ace of Wands came to an end with the story The Beautiful People, and an ending rather abruptly, I hasten to add, there could have been another season, but alas it was disbanded, and the slot paved way for a new series called The Tomorrow People, which carried over this kidult theme in some of its stories. Still somewhat of an enigma, thanks to fans who remember and the new ones who don't. Taro and Co live on in memory, and luckily we have the scarce viewing resources on offer released by Network DVD, which is in fact a must purchase. A fantastic polychromatic paisley hangover treat that used the new colour revolution for all it was worth, with real hippie chic and Terraline daring do. So let's just have a very quick look at the seasons and the stories to give you some idea on what they were about, as well as being illustrated by some of the photographs from the series, which I've used on here. No copyright infringement intended at all. It's just to hammer home my point, basically. Season 1, so story 1, was called 1 and 1 and 1 are 4, broadcast on the 29th of July 1970, which featured Madam Midnight and her sidekick Teddy Tulk, who steal a scientist's invention to cure paralysis, which lead Taro and Co to a monastery in Berkshire. Looking at the snaps, some very spooky stuff there. Story 2, The Mind Robbers, featured the enemy Xandor, who kidnaps 2 government officials and leads Taro and Co to a sinister house full of stuffed animals, where traps are laid and an evil snake dwells in the cellar that hates people. Story 3 was called Now You See It, Now You Don't, which was broadcast on the 16th of September 1970. And it was about the enemy in this one was Falk, who plans an ingenious bank robbery which pits Taro and Co against a computerized houseboat and nasty Nazis. Not the sort of thing that you would dare show in kids' program these days. Story 4 was called Now You See It, Now You Don't. That was broadcast on the 16th of September 1970, which featured the adversary Tong Zhu and his cohort Mrs. Kite, and their plans were to steal the Mona Lisa. Taro and co are pitted against their most mercenary of adversaries yet. Story 5, Seven Serpents, Sulphur and Salt. Mr. Stabs, this is broadcast on the 21st of July 71, featured Mr. Stabs, and he proves to be one of Taro's most supernatural enemies. With the ability of turning base metals into gold, Taro and co must deal with the curse of the Seven Serpents, as well as Mr. Stabs' inscrutable plans for the future, accompanied by his malicious midget called Luco. Such an impact at the time this story had, children up and down the country were mimicking the rhyming spells used by Stabs as they acted out the adventure in the playground in the scripts which exist that you can find on the network DVD and PDF format. You had such instances where Stabs chants, "Hand of Stabs, turn this fool into a fish without a pool," where Taro promptly drops to his knees gasping for air, or "Hand of Stabs, a thought unkind, place into this mortal's mind," and with a quick flick of a gloved hand, such fiendish occult orations could result in something horrid happening to the intended victim. Just a couple of many examples that's littered throughout the script, and bloody good examples they are too. It also featured references to Nicholas Flamel, the famous alchemist, and alchemy and a cult of sorcerers. God, this sounds good. There is a strong rumour or a fable that this may exist in the hands of a private collector somewhere. However, we will never know unless someone is willing to share the bounty and be less covetous. The character of Mr. Stabs resonated even in the 1980s when Del Boy himself, David Jason, played the character in an episode of the children's anthology series Dramarama in 1984. And also if we rewind to another anthology series called Shadows, there was a 1977 episode called Dutch Schillet's Shoes, and that also featured Mr. Stabs and Luco. Story 6 was Joker, a travelling magical troupe run by the sinister Mr. Harry, featuring Jack, Queen and King arrive to entertain the local children. What seems an innocent exercise at first turns much darker when children begin going berserk in their classrooms. Story 7 was called Nightmare Gas and was broadcast on the 1st of September 1971. And it was about Thalia and her monosyllabic brother Delbiac, who steal an important gas that causes such powerful hallucinations that in the wrong hands it could prove catastrophic. I think this is one of the episodes when one of Taro's companions, I think it's Lolly, almost drowns to death in a puddle, and there's also some rather funky photographs that exists of I'm not sure where this takes place in the plot. Is when Taro is tied to the stake and looks like it's about to be set on fire by Roundheads. So that was Nightmare Gas. The Eye of Ra was the last episode of season 2, broadcast on the 22nd of September 71, and was about the enemy Cerebrawn, who steals the Eye of Ra, a priceless diamond that can turn people into chalk. It shrinks them. Taro and co try to retrieve it, but has to battle menacing chess pieces in the process. I read somewhere, and forgive me, I cannot recall where it was, but someone commented on this story and recalled Taro being menaced by giant chess pieces on a chessboard. And when the chess pieces collided, there was like loads of sparks and energies emanating from them, a scene which I would imagine would have been pretty cool, methinks. So I think this is also the one where, if I'm not mistaken, in the Eye of Ra, and this is basically, when I was doing some research, I read this a long time ago because I've been a fan of this series for such a long time. I think if in this episode, when the people get shrunk to the small chalk pieces, when they're snapped in half, I think they bleed. So such imagery sums up the banality of this programme, which made Ace of Wands all the better for it. Pamela Lonsdale, the producer for seasons 1 and 2, did comment that she regards seasons 1 and 2 as the best of Ace of Wands, and was something everyone who worked on it was most proud of. This basically comment made me cry into my spangles. So then we go to the existing season 3, which was The Meddlers, shown 19th of July 72. So this introduces Chaz and Mickey, who have to deal with an alleged curse on a nearby market where they live. Strange occurrences have been frightening the market traders. Could this have anything to do with the sinister Mr. Dove? Power of Atep followed that, which is an ancient energy. The power of Atep is unleashed at a scary seance where Mickey is attending. In order to restore chaos, Taro and Co journey to Egypt to Atep's tomb, where they must find the solution to harness the energy before it's too late. We've covered Peacock Pie, which is absolutely awesome. Then you had Mama Doc, which is about Mama Doc, who runs a hospital for poorly dolls with a sidekick Bobby. But Taro and Co noticed as soon as someone disappears, they seem to become a casualty at the dolls hospital, but in a very miniature form. Is the same fate to befall them. We've had Sisters Deadly, which is arguably the weakest series of season 3, but is still quite creepy. And Chaz has an important assignment to photograph a woman's 100th birthday. All is not what it seems, however, when Chaz returns with no memory of the events that occurred, and Taro and Co take on the creepy old ladies of Bliss Cottage. Finally, it was The Beautiful People, which featured a travelling group of perfect hippies who begin to throw fates locally where everything is free. Taro and Co stumble across more bizarre motifs for such generosity and promptly gets attacked by fatal household appliances in the process, including a rather unstable chainsaw. The Beautiful People ended the show on a rather ambiguous note, as mentioned, and could have led to a fourth tenure, but changes within Thames departments brought new changes in programming, and Ace of Wands rather mysteriously vanished as quickly as it had suddenly appeared. On a bang, though, not a whimper, and you'll see what I mean if you get the network DVD and watch The Beautiful People. And as a last thing to mention, the theme, that wonderful, wonderful theme written by Andrew Bown of Status Quo fame, released at the time as a single. It's a lovely, folksy, hippie, groovy theme tune that can be found on a CD with a collection of other obscure 1970s themes. The album is called Magpie and other themes as well. So that basically sums up. Quick recap, the show was created by Trevor Preston, produced by Pamela Lonsdale, seasons 1 to 2, and John Russell took over in season 3. Music was by Andrew Bown, and also some stock music there from the KPM library, I think, was used in some of the episodes. And the theme was written, the lyrics were written by Trevor Preston and was screened ITV Regional 1970 to 73. I suppose looking at it on a modern take, the nearest thing that we would have had to Ace of Wands recently would have been Jonathan Creek, and also something like Strange, which was shown on BBC One. That was a corker of a drama with the woman that was in EastEnders, Samantha Janus, I think she was called at the time, and that was all to do with sort of magic and the occult, etc. So a combination of those two gives you an idea roughly of what Ace of Wands was like. Could it be made now? It could, but I wouldn't like to go down the treading on eggshells way that TV for younger audiences is made now. It was very daring, very experimental, and treated kids as young adults rather than, rather babyish than what it is now. So out of all, I would give Ace of Wands, I give that 10 pentagrams out of 10 for sure. And it is a series that I urge you to go and seek and buy the network DVD that is available, so you can get that from most retailers. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. If you have any episodes of Ace of Wands from season 1 and 2, please share them. This is where you can help out. And if you have any memories or recollections of this show for seasons 1 and 2, and there are any memories, please share them, as I said, on the comments page below. That's it really. So that's from our first wonderful episode of Look, Look and Look Again, and I look forward to seeing you in episode 2. Okay, so it's a goodbye from me, and don't forget to look, look and look again.